the most predictable team in the SEC for 2025. I think you know where this is going, and it is very cruel for me to say. So I want to start off by saying, let's just rip the Band-Aid and call a spade a spade. Texas A&M, it's you. I'm sorry. I know that you don't like hearing that. I know the 8-4 jokes are tiresome as all hell, but let's just call it as is. Until proven otherwise, why am I going to doubt you at this point? Because Texas A&M has been a team that has written the same script every single year since joining the SEC. And then every few years, they add a few tweaks, they make a few edits, and then lo and behold, they're going to a bigger bowl game. They're getting to 10-plus wins, or they're getting to 9-plus wins and should be in the hunt for the college football playoff. But Texas A&M has had the same mantra and story for a while now. And every single offseason, we see pundits and we see reporters and we see people hyping up the Aggies like they are the next big thing. And I have been a problem with that. And I have been. And I apologize to the Aggie Nation. I apologize to the 12th man. I apologize to you, Jimbo Fisher. I apologize to you, Mike Elko. I do. But now it's just one of those things where I kind of have to see to believe it. Because A&M's schedule is once again going to lead to the same type of results. They're going to win a game they probably shouldn't. Last year, LSU game, they were down by double digits. They make a switch at quarterback. Connor Wigman's out. Marcel Reed's in. Well, Blake Baker, he's not prepared for the mobility of a quarterback. No, he believes that they're going to play against a pocket passer. And Marcel Reed takes off running and single-handedly gets one of the biggest wins of the Mike Elko era, if not the biggest one of the Mike Elko era at the time. They won a game that they probably shouldn't. That's going to happen again this year. Look at when they play against a team like, look at when they play against Notre Dame. Like, imagine they go to South Bend after last year playing against a really, really solid Notre Dame team. And they march in and they kick the keister out of them. You get really good running back play from Amari Daniels. You get it from Le'Veon Moss. You get back a fully healthy Reuben Owens. And they win that game on September 13th. And now they're sitting at 3-0 going into the bye. And then they come home. And then they beat Auburn. And then they beat Mississippi State. And then they win a game that they probably shouldn't. Like I've already talked about. Florida is that interesting team. Florida may be overhyped at that point. Florida could be coming on in. And they could be sitting in a really good spot. With games against LIU, USF, they could be beating LSU. They could beat Miami. They may even beat Texas. And then they play Texas A&M. So they could be 5-0. They win that game. And now A&M is sitting high and mighty. Then they're going to lose a game they shouldn't. As is tradition. As always is tradition. A&M for years would struggle against teams that were out of their opponent. And sometimes it would be Arkansas, and sometimes it would be Mississippi State, and sometimes it would be Ole Miss that wasn't as good on paper as what we said. And they ended up losing that game, and everything started to unravel at that moment. That's going to happen at some point. Maybe it's to South Carolina that we're overhyping right now, and they're not as good. Maybe it's to Missouri on the road coming off a bye week. They win the game against LSU, and then unfortunately, they just can't find their footing. And then they close out the year on a losing streak, as is tradition. Losing to a team like Texas, losing to a South Carolina, maybe beating an LSU, but then losing to Missouri. And then lo and behold, they were sitting at 7-1, and now they're sitting at 8-4. That's the A&M script. And it's been the A&M script for a while. And I like what A&M's done this offseason. I said that A&M would be a team that should compete for a college football playoff berth because of who they added in at wide receiver. Kevin Concepcion from NC State was one of my favorite playmakers in the portal. That was my wide receiver one and my number one offensive weapon. And he's going to College Station. I like the offensive line. I think there's stability out there. I like what you have with Mario Craver. I like some of the names you brought in defensively, like Julian Humphrey and Samuel Pemba. I like the fact that you still have Des Ricks coming on in. I like the fact that you're going to have Terry Bussey potentially playing two ways next year. I like the fact that you have stability on the defensive line. You've added some really good pieces in the portal. You have a top 15 recruiting class. A&M's done all the right things. But every once in a blue moon, A&M outshoots its coverage. That's now the new norm when it comes, in my opinion, to Texas A&M. They're over-exceeding expectations. Because the expectations, it feels like, are 8-4. And they're going to stay that way for a while. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just beginning on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because FanDuel is your home for NBA live betting. Even if you miss the first few minutes of a game or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can make your picks from the first whistle until the final buzzer. Plus, You can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. However you want to play, now is the perfect time to join. New FanDuel customers get started with $150 in bonus bets with your first $5 bet win. Just visit FanDuel.com/SECU to join today. That's FanDuel.com/SECU for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Disclaimer: must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino and 18 plus in DC. First online real money wagers only. $5 first deposit is required. Bonus issues with non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. All right, back to the show. I'm not sure what I'm getting Marcel Reed. I think Reed is an exciting player. I think Reed is the perfect fit for what Colin Klein wants to run. But I'm not sure that if you put him under duress, he can deliver a big-time performance. I got to see it. I got to watch him be down with a minute left, drive those 97 yards, find a connection with Casey Concepcion into the end zone, 6 points, they win the football game. I got to see it. And until I do, it's hard for me to buy in. Because A&M has been the exact same model since joining the SEC. Outside of 2 years, 2012, they have a breakout season from Johnny Manziel. Comes on in, delivers exceptional performances, beats Alabama in the house that Nick Saban built. And they go 11-2. And it's not good enough to go to a national championship, but by golly, it's good enough to go to a big-time bowl game. And then in 2020, they have Jimbo Fisher, good culture, veteran team headlined by Kellen Mond that doesn't get enough respect in College Station for my money, good wide receiver play, exceptional ground game, good stability on the offensive line, a physical run defense. And they lose to Alabama in week 2. They get shut out. It's like 42-14. It's like actually 38-0 at one point. And then they go on a run. Unfortunately, because Ohio State did win the Big Ten, they gave them the nod and Notre Dame the nod. And so they take their frustrations out on North Carolina, win the Orange Bowl, and then you hear Jimbo Fisher say, "We ain't done yet." Well, sorry, Jimbo. Yeah, you were. That was the highlight moment of you, and you haven't gotten back to 10 wins since. I think the A&M on paper should be a team that we talk about in a more prominent light because they have the resources. When you hear people like Josh Pate and others talk about what A&M has, I've seen it up close in person. He's not lying to you. A&M is at its peak moment where they have all the utilities, all the resources, all the state-of-the-art complex equipment, all of the natural things that other programs like Ohio State and Michigan and Alabama and Georgia and Texas, and you can throw in Florida potentially, and some teams that we haven't even talked about like USC and Oregon all have. They have everything there to be sustainable. Be a team that's not only good, but competitive, and competitive in winning the right recruits, winning the right transfers. They have the money. And best of all, they also, I think, have the right coach. But for years, they didn't have that last factor. They didn't have that last element. Mike Elko is a meat and potatoes son of a bitch. That is who he is at his core. He doesn't deliver any nonsense. He doesn't care about your background. He doesn't care about your story. He doesn't care about how you got here, what you're making in NIL funds. If you are the best 11 on the field, it's because if you earn the right to play. That's Mike Elko. And I believe that A&M will go to a college football playoff at some point. I do. Probably when it's 14 teams or 16 teams. That might happen. But I'm not ready to buy on in just yet to the stock of, well, Texas A&M went out and they spent a lot of money in the portal. They do that all the time. They had a top 15 recruiting class. They've had that for a decade. Now they have a schedule that's very manageable. They've had manageable schedules in the past. Until proven otherwise, now I was talking to a buddy of mine, Chad King. Chad, if you're watching this, tell your son, Ben, can't wait to see him in the future. A&M is a team that you can always expect. They have the same 3 requirements every single year. Win a game that they probably shouldn't. Lose a game that they probably shouldn't. Struggle against 2 or 3 teams that could go either way. Look at their schedule. They win against Notre Dame. They win against LSU. They lose to Arkansas and Fayetteville. Struggled on the stretch. Finished the year off 8-4 with losses to Missouri, lost to South Carolina, lost to Texas, and then they're playing for the Gator Bowl or the ReliaQuest Bowl, or maybe they're going out to the Music City Bowl, or better yet, they'll go out to Las Vegas and they'll spend a lot of money and then they'll lose to a Big Ten team that was masquerading as a Big Ten team that probably should just stay out in the Pac-10. But I'm not going to dissolve on what happened with USC and why relocation and allocation is done with all that process.